Good morning, everybody. Pastor Rick here, Broadman Baptist Church. This is the Broadman Word for October 8th, 2021. And this is Perceptions from the Devotional Radical Wisdom. And today, I want to talk to you about where is the wisdom and making decisions about our Christian life and life in general. Our emotions can really amplify whatever it is we're thinking. If you're on a roll and things are going good in life, you got those endorphins going that can kind of lubricate a whole lot of happy feelings and get us perhaps not seeing things quite as clearly. We have this over optimistic view of the situation. So, in the abundance of our joy and things going great, which is the goal. We all want to live in that kind of a state. We could get carried away. And of course, the opposite can be true. If you've suffered a loss or you're going through a time, you get turned down for something, rejected. Maybe there's a lack of joy or happiness going on. These things can kind of accelerate the decline from where we were and make us go deeper down than perhaps was necessary or required for the moment. We could have a loss of confidence. We could become scarce in our abilities to do good and think. We can have self-critical thoughts about why didn't you see this coming? Why weren't we prepared? Why me? And then of course the wives' tales. Trouble always comes in threes. Things like that. These things aren't good either. They can kind of pile up and create a situation that didn't need to be there. When we're dealing with both up and down, there is one emotion that comes through most intense and most clear, and that's anger. When somebody kind of sets you off, we're ready. We're ready to go. Fight or flight, get me in the fight or get me out of here, one or the other. And so responding intelligently during this time, sort of this red zone of emotion is not very likely. It is not going to be well thought through. It's not going to be well constructed. Your response is going to be one of emotion, not perhaps even Christian emotion or the way that God would have you respond. The possibility of getting something right while you're angry is pretty darn low. So, then why all of these emotions? Why do we go through this? God gave us emotions for a good reason. He wants us to experience life in full. He wants us to know joy. He wants us to know pain. He wants us to rely on Him during times of hurt so that we can see Him working in our life and see His trustworthiness and His provision and get us back to the joy that we all seek. So we have lots of things. We have music, we have nature, we have worship, we have fellowship, we have relationships, all kinds of things, emotional things that are designed for us to enjoy a very full life. The simpleness of a beautiful sunset, things like that. So in our discussion today then, where is the wisdom? Where is the true path? Thinking about it that way. The key to finding wisdom is to slow down the process. Examine things, try to look at things in a horizon view, meaning look out past the immediate, look out towards the horizon. Big decisions should not be made in anger and they should not be made in haste. We need to slow that process down. Need to think about the long-term consequences of what it is we want to say or what it is we want to do. And so that means waiting for either the hype of the endorphins to wear off or the depression of the lows to wear off. And most definitely for the intense anger and all of that goes with it to tamp down and settle. So we find the key then to wisdom in our clear thinking, and it can be difficult. We are all programmed to protect ourselves. And when you're in the heat of the moment, so to speak, being rejected, experiencing aggression, being accused of something, facing some sort of detriment, either of perhaps your own making, but more often probably something somebody else is doing or has done. It's difficult at that moment to put away the emotions because we're human and we're supposed to have emotions. But to see clearly through that with your Christian spirit and your spiritual maturity in play, and your spiritual wisdom about the situation at the ready, to then make a response. It's difficult because we want to first protect, and then perhaps we want to make right. We feel justice needs to be done, or that something's been done against us, and we seek to balance the scales. All of these things can pile up on us and end up in an incorrect or unchristian response that ends up not really helping the situation. So we need a personal guardrail then. Personally, in situations of contention, regardless of what they are, regardless of how intense they are, I don't make a personalized response. What does that mean? I do more listening than talking. I do more attempts to understand than to project my position, to understand the other position. And I try to find in what's being said to me the actual cause of the words or the actions, deeds, intentions, because it's rarely what's being put in front of you. That is usually the symptom of something else. So when you try to use your spiritual maturity and your spiritual wisdom to decipher what actually is the problem, it's going to take a little while to process all the information that you receive and have an effective Christian response to whatever it is. Situation's irrelevant. But we have to back this thing up to being spiritually ready for whatever it is in the first place. And that requires a grounding in the scripture. It requires an understanding of who you are as a representative of Christ, even to your other brothers and sisters. It requires relationships to God, the church, and to your brothers and sisters, even if they're not the closest of friends, a recognition of how it is you should interact with another believer. And then an empathy for the lost, because there's where you're going to truly find the most intense rebukes and rejection and accusations of you or your faith or God in general, or all of the above. So don't make on the spot decisions. Take the information in, approach it from a position of being a representative of Christ and needing the individual, whether they know it or not, to see Christ in that moment. In that way, you can be assured that you can process the information and come up with a reasonable response. So, I'm sure you can remember a decision that you wish you could do over. And if you look at it, it was probably emotions that made it go awry in the first place. So, let's try to be more Christ-like, less emotional, and more effective. Hey, listen, I love you. You have a blessed day, and I'll talk to you next time.